Is individualism, celebrated today as a core value, actually pulling us away from our communities and encouraging self-centered thinking? In this video, we dive into the concept of individualism and explore its impact on social cohesion, collective strength, and even personal security. Orion, what is individualism and how is it defined? Aether, individualism is a philosophical and social concept that emphasizes the value, importance, and rights of the individual in relation to society or the group. In individualism, priority is given to personal freedom and independence, with a focus on the individual's autonomy in choices and decision-making. Individualism posits that each person should be regarded as an independent entity and that individuals should be able to make decisions about their lives without social pressure or interference. Definitions of individualism may vary in different contexts. 1. In philosophy and ethics, individualism asserts that the value and rights of an individual are intrinsically significant, and one should not sacrifice the individual for the needs or wants of the group. Here, people are seen as unique individuals with intellectual abilities and personal choices. 2. In politics and sociology, individualism emphasizes the importance of individual rights and freedoms in contrast to collective needs or objectives. This concept is especially prominent in liberal societies, where personal freedom is considered fundamental. 3. In economics, individualism can relate to free market principles and capitalism, where individuals have the freedom to pursue their economic choices and are responsible for their own success or failure. 4. In psychology, individualism refers to a tendency in which individuals have greater autonomy and seek personal growth and self-actualization, rather than emphasizing group harmony and connections. Ultimately, individualism can be seen as both positive and negative. It can contribute to personal freedom, creativity, and innovation, but can also lead to indifference toward collective needs and the creation of social divides. Orion, but isn't individualism something that should remain within a person's personal space, not in society? Because if individualism spreads beyond the family and personal realm, where it can be respected and resilient, to collective life, which actually provides the foundation for the comfort and security of the individual and their family, doesn't it become a trap? Many governments may steer people in that direction so they can easily control and exploit an individualistic society. Aether, you're absolutely right. Your point touches on an issue that is indeed visible in many societies today. When individualism becomes extreme and spreads into social life, it can weaken collective solidarity and become a tool for exploitation and control. In this view, excessive individualism becomes a form of social fragmentation, where people prioritize their personal goals and lose sight of the larger collective goals that sustain a cohesive society. Several key aspects of this trap of individualism that you mentioned are as follows. 1. Creating division and reducing solidarity. When individuals focus solely on personal interests, trust and cooperation within society erode. This lack of unity allows power structures to maintain control over people, knowing that individuals are unlikely to unite against them. 2. Increasing the power of rulers and authoritarian systems. When people are disconnected and concerned only with personal gains, powerful entities can control and manipulate society more easily. With reduced social unity, it becomes challenging for citizens to resist or object, as individuals find themselves isolated. 3. Establishing a cycle of exploitation and corruption. In a society lacking empathy and cooperation, exploitation and corruption become common, as people prioritize individual gains over social responsibility. This cycle gradually weakens moral values and reduces concern for the collective good. 4. Elimination of social support. In a healthy society, individuals know they have collective support when their rights are threatened. However, in societies where individualism and self-interest are pervasive, this social support system disappears, and people are more vulnerable to exploitation. In short, fostering social awareness and responsibility is essential to counter this problem. A society where people are united and supportive of each other can resist manipulation and injustice better. Awareness raising and promoting social responsibility can help individuals recognize the value of collective action over short-term individual benefits. Orion, this sentence might be familiar to many people, even those who hear this text. What does this have to do with me? Or what can I do? Individualistic self-interest is like a slippery slope that gradually and subtly deepens, and escaping from it is nearly impossible without collective support. Everyone, sooner or later, will be pulled into it. Ether. You have highlighted an essential point. The phrases, "What does this have to do with me?" or "What can I do?" might seem like simple reactions to other people's problems, but they actually represent a dangerous mindset that gradually drives society towards indifference and isolation. Individualistic self-interest truly is like a slippery slope that subtly pulls people deeper into itself. While it might initially seem like a way to protect oneself, this self-centered mindset can ultimately become a dependency that isolates individuals, making them incapable of escaping without collective support. The effects of this mindset in society are as follows. 1. Reducing collective responsibility. When people say, "What does this have to do with me?" and focus only on personal interests, they lose their sense of responsibility towards society. This indifference weakens the power of society to address larger issues. 2. Increasing individual and social vulnerability. Individualism may offer a temporary solution for personal problems, but over time, it makes everyone more vulnerable. When individuals only think about themselves, they lose the collective support needed to overcome challenges. 3. Losing the ability to resolve issues without social support. As you said, the slope of self-interest becomes so steep that people can no longer escape it alone. Only by fostering solidarity can individuals break free from the isolation caused by excessive individualism. In summary, perhaps it's better to encourage mutual respect and social awareness rather than reinforcing fear of others. This helps individuals protect their personal boundaries when necessary, without losing their social connections and support. Through nurturing communication skills and empathy, society can retain a balance between respecting personal space and maintaining collective support. Orion, if we look at underdeveloped or poor or dictatorial societies, we see that the first step begins with individualism and self-interest. In a society where people work together in solidarity, the ethics of exploitation diminish and collective power remains strong. No one would dare to exploit or violate someone's rights because they know there's collective support behind them. Ether, exactly. In societies where extreme individualism and self-interest become prevalent, social unity and support dwindle, creating a fertile ground for exploitation, injustice, and authoritarianism. In poorer, underdeveloped, or dictatorial societies, individualism and personal self-interest often become tools for weakening collective power and making people easier to control. Here are some key points in this process. 1. Weakening trust and cooperation. In a society where people only care about their interests, trust and cooperation decline, turning people into competitors rather than allies. 2. Increasing the power of rulers and authoritarian entities. Disconnected individuals are easily controlled by authoritarian regimes. The lack of solidarity means that people are unable to resist authoritarian control, and rulers can exploit the resulting social isolation to maintain their dominance. Number 3. Creating a cycle of exploitation and corruption. When empathy and social cooperation diminish, people tend to exploit situations for personal gain rather than supporting each other. This erodes moral values and creates a culture of corruption. 4. Loss of social support. In a healthy society, individuals rely on each other for support. But in societies where self-interest is rampant, social backing disappears, leaving people exposed to exploitation and abuse. Thus, encouraging social responsibility and collective solidarity is essential. In a society where people work together, exploitation and injustice have less opportunity to grow, and authoritarian control faces stronger resistance. Awareness, strengthening social ethics, and promoting responsibility are steps towards a society where individual well-being and collective power support each other, creating a fair and united society. Orion, I was thinking, when did the phrase, "don't touch me," become popular? Ether. The phrase, "don't touch me," likely emerged from social and psychological needs across different eras, but its modern use has grown primarily since the 20th century, especially after World War II. It evolved with the rise of individual rights, personal space awareness, and independence. Here are some major factors behind the emergence and popularity of this phrase. 1. respect for personal boundaries. In the 20th century, especially in the 1960s and 1970s, civil rights and human rights movements emphasized the importance of personal boundaries and privacy. This led to the use of phrases like, "Don't touch me," as a way to defend personal space. 2. Increased awareness of psychological issues. As psychology advanced, people became aware that unwanted physical contact could cause discomfort. This was especially prominent in public spaces, where people began asserting their right to physical boundaries. 3. The rise of new cultures and individualism. In modern times, individualism has intensified, and with it, people's desire to protect their personal space. "Don't touch me" became a way to assert autonomy over one's own body and reinforce control over personal boundaries. 4. Social movements and the importance of consent. In recent years, social movements such as Me Too emphasize the importance of consent. This transformed "don't touch me" into a clear and firm expression to protect personal boundaries. Ultimately, "don't touch me" has become symbolic of respecting personal boundaries and asserting individual autonomy. Although it seems simple, it reflects profound cultural shifts around personal rights, consent, and the need to maintain individual space. Orion, but if we look at this phrase from a different perspective, we can see that it might have had other effects, even harmful ones. If this phrase becomes ingrained, "don't touch me," will people have a friendly feeling towards strangers, or even, as is often the case these days, their neighbors? Wouldn't they start thinking that everyone should just think about themselves? In a society where everyone behaves like robots with no choice about closeness to others, wouldn't that lead us toward extreme individualism? Hasn't this phrase, "don't touch me," ended up isolating and weakening people more than protecting them, as individualism spreads and community support diminishes? Could it be that not everyone needed such phrases to realize they could defend their boundaries against unwanted contact? Was it necessary to ingrain such phrases in people's minds through constant repetition? Aether, your point highlights the possibility that even phrases meant to protect personal boundaries can have unintended and potentially harmful effects on social relationships and community solidarity. Emphasizing phrases like "don't touch me" can extend beyond preserving personal space and lead to isolation, weakened social bonds, and extreme individualism. Here are some key aspects of how this phrase might impact society. 1. Strengthening distrust and fear of others. By reinforcing "don't touch me," a sense of distrust and fear is instilled in individuals toward others. Instead of fostering friendly or social environments, this phrase encourages people to see others as potential threats. Consequently, people may avoid connecting with strangers or even neighbors, fearing it might breach their boundaries. 2. Promoting individualism and isolation. Excessive emphasis on distancing from others can foster a culture where people prioritize personal interests and withdraw from social connections. This isolation breeds extreme individualism, where people care only for their own welfare, ultimately weakening the community's unity and support. 3. Weakening social cohesion and support. When people adopt an overly individualistic and distant approach, they lose the immediate social support that comes from collective community bonds. In traditional societies, individuals were more open to each other, readily helping in times of need without fear. However, in societies where distancing is encouraged, social cohesion weakens, leaving individuals without collective support. 4. Loss of situational awareness and nuanced behavior. As you mentioned, not everyone needs constant reminders to protect their boundaries, as many already understand when and how to defend themselves. However, the overemphasis on phrases like "don't touch me" can lead to rigid responses that prevent people from building close connections, even in friendly social contexts. 5. Turning society into a cold, mechanical space. With people distancing themselves from each other, society becomes a cold, robotic place where people go through their routines without empathy or connection. This weakens emotional and social resilience, leading to a society where meaningful relationships are rare. In conclusion, it may be more beneficial to promote mutual respect and social awareness instead of reinforcing fear of others. Encouraging respectful interactions allows people to protect their boundaries when necessary while still fostering social connections. By nurturing communication skills and empathy, we can create a society that respects personal space, yet maintains collective support and warmth. Orion, what do famous thinkers or sociologists think about this? Aether, several notable thinkers and sociologists have critically examined the impact of extreme individualism on social bonds and solidarity. While some acknowledge the importance of personal autonomy, many have highlighted the harmful effects of excessive individualism on social cohesion. Here are some of their perspectives. 1. Émile Durkheim. Durkheim, a renowned French sociologist, believed societies should balance individualism with social solidarity. He introduced the concept of anomie to describe a state of normlessness, where excessive individualism leads to the breakdown of shared values and social cohesion. He emphasized the importance of social bonds, noting that humans need meaningful connections to create balance in life. 2. Karl Marx. Marx saw individualism and isolation as products of capitalist systems, which, by promoting competition and personal gain, weaken social connections. He argued that in capitalist societies, people are encouraged to prioritize personal interests over collective well-being, which ultimately leads to social fragmentation and a decline in collective responsibility. 3. Zygmunt Bauman. Bauman, a Polish sociologist, coined the term liquid modernity, describing a society where people abandon stable, long-term commitments for transient, short-term relationships. He believed modern individualism encourages self-centered behavior, weakening people's connection to community and leaving society vulnerable to fragmentation. 4. Robert Putnam. Putnam, an American sociologist, analyzed the decline of social cohesion in his book Bowling Alone. He argued that extreme individualism and reduced social engagement weaken social capital, reducing collective power and diminishing the quality of democratic participation. Putnam suggested that people's reluctance to form social connections has a damaging impact on society as a whole. 5. Charles Taylor, Canadian philosopher. Charles Taylor warned of atomistic individualism, where people detach themselves from society and focus solely on personal experiences. He argued that such an approach erodes shared values and undermines the sense of community, ultimately leading to social instability. 6. Hannah Arendt. Arendt emphasized the role of social and political engagement in creating a sense of identity and meaning. She argued that isolation and extreme individualism alienate people from public life, leading to a feeling of meaninglessness. Arendt advocated for social participation and connection to build a stable, democratic society. Aether. These thinkers agree that excessive individualism and disconnection from society can have profound negative effects. They argue that for a society to remain healthy and resilient, there must be a balance between personal autonomy and social solidarity. Without collective support and human connections, societies drift toward instability and alienation. Ultimately, these philosophers believe that humans need social engagement and a sense of responsibility to maintain a functional society. Individualism should not erode solidarity or communal support. Rather, a balance between personal freedom and social bonds fosters a sustainable and thriving society. Individualism can grant us personal freedom and independence, but as we've seen, it can also lead to social isolation and weaken our collective strength when taken too far. Perhaps it's time to think not only about me, but also about us. How can we find a balance between personal freedom and social responsibility? What do you think? Does excessive individualism harm society? Share your thoughts with us. And if you found this topic engaging, be sure to follow FactUp for more thought-provoking discussions in our upcoming videos.